You're probably watching this video because there's been some shouting in the house and you're wondering, how is this affecting my kid? How is this affecting me? I'm Sasha with Goalie. We design apps and tablets for kids, and I'm going to talk to you about yelling and some strategies that we've considered. First, let's understand, why is yelling a problem? Obviously, there's a lot of psychological analysis as to this causing kids harm. Maybe there's some trauma that comes from yelling. You might even have a memory as a kid of your parents screaming either at you or at each other. So this definitely imprints on a child's mind. What you should also consider, though, is the physiological expression of this. What happens in the brain when you're yelling or you're being yelled at? What usually happens is your brain kind of triggers into a fight or flight mode. And that means you have a dopamine release that says, hey, you got to kick into action. Something's happening right now. That's why it's so easy to lose control of your emotions once you've started the yelling. It's really hard to take that backwards. Your brain is literally in fight mode. This is a survival tactic that your brain's developed to help you get through the jungle. If you want to learn more about the science of kids and emotional self-regulation, click on the link right up here or here. So what do you do if your brain is in fight mode? Well, the first thing is you have to recognize I'm in fight mode and I have to get myself out of fight mode. For kids, we have an app called Mood Tuner, and they select a color for each emotion. So red means I'm explosive, I'm fiery, I'm hot. Yellow means I'm anxious or I'm nervous or I might be scared. And once they select which emotion they feel, we offer them some strategies for how they can regulate that emotion. But keep in mind, these strategies are really the same thing that adults use. We just don't tie colors and basics to them. Mood Tuner is great for kids, but it's the same thing a psychologist would have you do as an adult. Okay, so you recognize that establishing an inward perspective on how you feel is really important. How do you teach your kid how to do that? Well, we actually do that in Goalmine. We have video lessons that teach kids how they feel and how to correlate that to a color. We start those early steps of introspection. Now, they're not just going to learn it from a video, they actually have to practice. And practice is why we have Mood Tuner. We have beautiful video content that teaches your kids how to do that. And that's a skill they're going to carry forward with them for the rest of their lives. So it's really valuable to learn how to do this and practice doing this as a little kid. Now, as a parent, you get reports in our parent app. You're going to see on your phone how your kid reported how they're feeling, not only in Mood Tuner, but also as they finish their morning and night routines in our Copilot app. If you want to learn more about the science of creating routines for your kids, check out our Copilot app where we explain all the different things psychologists consider right up here. We talked about the screaming, but let's talk about what happened before the screaming. Psychologists will call this an antecedent. What happens that triggers a child to start screaming? It's usually tied to transitions, something unexpected or undesirable. Maybe that's a game ending. Maybe that's you taking the iPad out of their hands and them directing their fury at you as the parent. If you have a kid that struggles with transitions like this, what can you do to support them? And this is where visual schedules come in place. In Goalie, we create routines for our kids. We give them pictures and video instructions of exactly what to do, but equally important, we give them a visual timer that ticks down when they're supposed to be done. So they know with plenty of warning in advance when it's supposed to be done, and Goalie's the bad guy when it comes to an end, not you. It's harder for them to channel their anger at their favorite tablet than it is at their favorite parent. When we designed our Game Garage app where kids play games, we had this in mind the whole time. We know that most meltdowns occur when games or a desired activity is taken away. So in Goalmine, kids have a fuel gauge, and Petey the penguin tells them, hey, you're running out of fuel, and I gotta land you back on Earth before you get spaced out like those other kids. We don't want you to get spaced out. So it's all about softening the transition. How do we create a soft landing before we move on to the next activity to minimize the risk of that fight or flight response, that anger, that shouting? All right, so we talked about the during shouting, we talked about before shouting. Let's go to after shouting. The shouting starts occurring. What do you do? Well, the first thing is realize in yourself, look inward as a parent, and realize your brain is in fight or flight mode. It's tricking you. It's making you think you're in the jungle when you're probably just in the kitchen with your kid. And once you've recognized that in yourself, now you can start taking strategies. What happens if you start lowering your voice as your kid starts raising their voice? What if you use the most soothing voice you have and talk really quietly like this? What's going to signal to your kid's brain is that, hey, I'm not in danger right now. Things actually feel peaceful. And we can also start talking to our kids about emotions after the fact. Hey, how did you feel when you started yelling at me? Did you see how that might have made me feel? Having those conversations is key for kids. If you want to learn more about emotional self-regulation or routine management for kids, go to getgoalie.com or click on the link below.